Alright, today we're going to go through the operation of a 6-inch tow behind wood chipper. This is a Vermeer BC 600 XL model. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to run through the operation on how it works, show you how to properly connect it to your vehicle, show you where the fuel tank is, show you any sort of tips or tricks that might be there with this machine. So for starters, first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start our engine. Now when we do that, if you need to, you can choke it. Otherwise, you just have throttle here at the bottom, and then we have our ignition here. At first, we'll start off on idle, and then from there, we're slowly going to move our clutch into place to engage the belt to begin turning the cutter wheel. So first things first, let's get this out of the way so we can reach our clutch. So I'm going to come to the rear. I'm going to drop down this rear hatch. That'll open the intake feed. This is what I was referring to. This is what I needed to gain access to. This here is going to operate the clutch, which will engage the belt and turn the cutter wheel. Once we got our clutch engaged and the cutter wheel is turning at appropriate speeds, then we're going to come to the rear of the machine, and we want to make sure that we're in the proper settings, that this intake wheel will begin turning, so we can put in our logs and our branches and our brush. All right, back here in the rear, you have a few different controls that are going to determine the intake wheel. You'll notice this lever here. This is going to be one of your main ones. This right here will actually turn it on and off. So you'll notice it's kind of angled backwards. That's going to be the off position. What you want to do is you want to pull this forward, and that'll be your on position. So from there, your wheel's not going to spin until you operate this second lever, this red one that goes above the machine. Now this one has 3 different positions. This one's going to have a neutral. Pushed backwards, it's going to have a reverse, and that's not a constant. That's just as long as you have pressure on the bar. It's only going to go in reverse as long as you're pushing on the bar that way. And then pulling it forward, you have your regular gear there. Now you'll notice it does stay in that position. That's how you can go grab your branches and input them into the intake while this is still operating. Again, this does have a couple more positions. If you were to push this bar quickly all the way backwards, it will stop the intake wheel. Or if you were to pull this bar completely this way, it'll also stop it as well, doing just that there. And you'll notice when I pull that, this resets and goes to off. You also have a safety bar here at your legs. That's another one designed that if you were to accidentally get pulled in, or if you couldn't reach this one in time, you could just simply bump this one with your legs and it would do the same operation. So we're going to reset this, put that back to on, and you'll notice when I press this with my knee, that bar is going to reset. Just like that there. So what I'm going to do right now, you won't be able to hear me, but I'm going to turn this machine on, and I'm going to show you how all this does operate, and so you can kind of see it in motion. So from here, I'm going to idle it back down, turn the engine on. also this lever here that will operate the speed that the intake wheel is turning at.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that was just a short, quick operation on how it works. There is one thing that I do want to go over with you. You do have a lever here that is adjustable. Now this here is going to be the speed to determine how fast that intake wheel turns. So usually it's safe bet to keep it about medium. So the maximum intake for this machine is 6 inches. If you are chipping wood that's 5 to 6 inches, then it's ideal that you would turn this down to a much slower rate of speed to allow this machine to properly chip that up and get rid of it. If you go in there full blast or even medium with the maximum pieces of wood, the machine's going to have a really hard time chipping that up properly, and it could go as far as to lodge in the cutter wheel, shut the machine down, and then it's just a huge, massive deal to open this up and have to unlodge it just to simply make it work again. So yeah, if you're cutting at maximum, if you're chipping maximum pieces, it is ideal to keep it slow. If you're like in that mid-range, 3 to 4 inches, about medium. If you're doing real small brush, then you can turn it as wide open if you prefer. From there, another thing we're going to jump onto is the shutdown procedure. So shutdown is going to be involved, after you completed a job here, you're ready to move on to somewhere else. Our first step is we're going to shut our cutter wheel off. So if this thing is on, it is rolling, all you're simply going to do, you're simply going to push this bar down to stop the cutter, to stop the intake wheel. Then from there, you're going to idle the engine down. So you want to take your throttle, move it down, let it sit for just 10 to 15 seconds to really let that engine idle down. Then you want to disengage your clutch. So your clutch will be here. You want to move it back to the off position. Then you just want to shut your engine off. Just simply turn your engine off by using the key. And then you want to wait for that cutter wheel to stop turning before you try to engage it again. The reason being is if that cutter wheel is turning and you're trying to engage it, you're just going to cause premature wear on your belt. So if you wait for that to stop turning before you try and turn it on again, everything will be good to go. All right, so moving on with our 6-inch wood chipper. This part here, I'm just going to touch base with you on how to transport it properly. So again, every sort of trailer is going to have the same basic things. You're going to have your safety chains, you're going to have your trailer wiring, and then you're going to have your coupler. On this particular model, what we have on here is a pintle hook. So this technically is called a lunette ring. The pintle hook would be what's on your truck. It just looks like an open mouth, and it just grabs around this hook, and that's the coupling device for this model here. And then we have our adjustable jack on this side of the machine. Going from there, this here is our chute. So as you're chipping the wood or brush or whatever you might be chipping, it's going to be feeding in, going into the cutter wheel. That cutter wheel will be chipping it, and then it's going to shoot it out this chute. Now this is adjustable. All we'll do, we'll pull this lever down and twist it over. And like I said, we can spin this around to any position that we like, whatever direction that you want to be in. Once you have the direction you want to have, once you have the direction you want to chip in, you just slide this back into place, give this a little wiggle to make sure that pin locked in there properly, and then you're good to go. This particular chipper model is a gas model. So right here, you do have your fuel tank. There is no physical gauge for the fuel tank. It's just done by sight. So all you'll do, you'll simply take the lid off, and you look down at the level of the fuel. This tank next to it is the hydraulic oil needed for this machine to operate. At the top there, you would be able to see a gauge going from red to green, and there'll be a needle on that to display how much hydraulic oil you have in the tank.